Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Build Show with JP. I am John Peitzman, JP, your host, and I am ready to transform lives one guest at a time with another amazing guest we have with us today, Rob Brown. Rob is the co-founder and CEO of KERB, which is a peer-to-peer and business-to-business parking app. KERB is a global from day one smart parking platform that helps cities all around the world reduce the number of vehicles on their roads by allowing citizens and private organizations to rent or lease underutilized parking spaces. One of Australia's prominent marketers and a globally recognized pioneer in the world of marketing automation, Rob is a regular international keynote speaker and has appeared on numerous mainstream networks such as BBC World and the Huffington Post. And today he adds to that list, The Build Show with JP. So thanks for joining us, mate.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So
Thank you, JP.
how are you feeling and what are you excited about right now?
Oh, look, it's a beautiful Friday in Sydney. Just been for a swim in the harbour and excited about the fantastic journey we're on with KERB at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited to talk about that, and we're going to talk about, as we always do, in the context of build. And for those of you who still don't know what build is, it's an acronym, of course, that stands for Build Relationships, Understand the Business, Implement Strategies, Lead and Inspire, and Deliver Excellence. And what I love about these opportunities to talk with successful people like yourself is that we take build, right? It's kind of tactical and practical as it is, but it's a philosophical conversation, right? When we bring the real people, real success and stories into the arena, then people are allowed to actually see the connection and get more inspired and realize what that actually means in their lives, right? So, but I really want to hear about KERB and how you've done things and what's happening. So before we even get into build, tell me a little bit about KERB. I mean, I gave my little intro there that I got from your bio page, but what is KERB's story and where are you today and where are you going?
Look, KERB's story, as you said, JP, I mean, we're a global from day one parking platform. Parking's a really broken industry. It's a broken sector all over the world, developing and the developing world. It's a bit like where the taxi industry was 10 years ago. It's a sort of last century, low tech, high friction, dirty, expensive environment, and nobody enjoys parking their car in a commercial parking car park or parking lot. And in most cities around the world, you know, there's just a chronic shortage of parking, especially in rush hour traffic.
Right.
And so you've got the peer-to-peer side, you know, all these every car that's driving around the street to Sydney or San Francisco or Santiago has freed up a parking space somewhere else.
Right.
And that could be used, you know. So we're adding parking supply to a constrained marketplace by opening up, you know, church car parks, you know, even hotel car parks.
So you're like the Airbnb, but for parking, right?
Yeah, very similar. But we're also really looking to disrupt and improve that parking experience in parking lots, you know, where you've got gates that don't work and a very impersonalized, experience. We're looking to bring a bit of the Uber and Airbnb into that experience. So we're rolling it out across the world. It's available in 19 languages. Sort of localized for 600 cities, and it's really exciting.
Global from day one. I noticed that's a specific type of thing, right? So tell me about that. I mean, you literally rolled it out globally?
Yeah, so it was we built it with a view immediately. You know, I mean, for example, you know, global, you're going to need multiple languages, you're going to need localization, whether you're opening the app in, you're going to need a name that works in Milan and Marseille.
It doesn't mean something that
Melbourne.
it shouldn't.
Absolutely,
Exactly, right.
you know, I mean, even the word, you know, it's not the first parking app, but it's the first global parking platform. And I mean, even the word park, you know, it means something completely different in most languages. It's got nothing to do with stopping a vehicle by the roadside. So we needed a word, and KERB is a great, you know, I mean, over half of the world's 8 billion population come into contact every day with the KERB. So, you know, it's got the potential to go into all sorts of different directions, particularly with the global mobility, urban mobility, sort of smart city sort of stuff that's happening around the world. So it's a really exciting journey. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the journey. So let's talk about it again in the context of build. If you look at B being build relationships, right? And you look at, again, our listeners and viewers thinking about how your experience can help them in their curb of their life or whatever, you know, their dream and desire is. What in the category of build relationships to you leaps out from the standpoint of really setting you up for success in your life?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a sort of slightly out of left field, but I mean, one of the relationships that really sort of, you know, set my life on a different course, JP, was was my boxing coach. Okay?
Right. No,
Yeah.
tell me more. I'm a martial artist. So
yeah.
I
I was a martial artist. I was a black belt in full contact karate by 18. And when I went away to university, I was living in the UK. And I went away to university, as you do in the UK, and I was a qualified instructor. So I was looking to start my own club, which I was able to, I was qualified to do. And I ended up stumbling across the local sort of boxing club, which was a spit and sawdust, sort of
exactly.
like a scene from
the real
Rocky,
traditional thing. Exactly.
Oh yeah, it was
the old guys in the corner
no
with
glamour,
the young,
no glamour, the cut guy and all that sort of stuff. And it was, it stank.
It was raw.
It was raw, really raw. And the coach was an ex-pro, and but the father figure, and sort of
with the picture on the wall,
absolutely.
the belt that he won,
all the old,
the
old sepia pictures of the fights and the big fights, and look, so I sort of never ever intended to go down that path, but. I was 18. I guess I was, influenceable, and I ended up. He said, "Look, we'll get you your first fight, in a month or two's time, Rob." And there were about 30 of us down at the gym, all sorts of different, old, young kids, but there were only about 3 or 4 of us that actually had fights, and. It was the most confronting thing I've ever done in my life. Getting into that ring with a crowd that's betting on the outcome. There's nowhere to hide, and it was the most. And that coach, he used to shake our hand on the way out of the ring, win, lose, or draw, and he just said, "I'll give anybody 10 out of 10 who gets in that ring." But it's one thing to go to the gym and do a bit of boxercise and build your muscles and all that stuff, but putting your life literally on the line, which is what you're doing when you get into the ring. Yeah. So that really set me up in terms of, the other, one of the things that he and boxing really sort of channeled was just the fitness and the level of training that you had, even for amateur boxing, which was only 3 rounds, but it's the same venues. It was either a working men's RSL club or a dinner date, dinner sort of do with white tie, what black tie. So it was, I was training. I was studying at university, but I was training sort of 6 hours a day. Coming home from a job at midnight, running for an hour on the streets of the UK in the wet and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it was,
like Rocky, did you go up the steps?
Yeah. So, but that really set me up in terms of just making sure that I always looked after myself. In terms of fitness and health and that's never left me. But it was the discipline of being that's really, so that relationship was a real sort of catalyst for all sorts of things.
Amazing. And it stuck with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You still know the coach?
No. I left.
Is he still alive? Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah, but still, it stuck with you.
Yeah, his name was Rod.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
If we go to you, then understand the business, right? Clearly, you have a lot of understandings that you can pass on, but are there any that kind of leap out from the standpoint of these listeners and viewers being able to implement from your experience that you've had in the business or your personal life?
Look, I think at the end of the day, JP. Business is performed by people, and if you can't understand people, that is the key. People buy from people, people learn from people. We're social animals, and
it's not going to be replaced by robots and technology, everything.
So this is the thing. When you look at the change that's happened in the world, the industrial and the technological change of the last 250 years, you've got. And especially in the last sort of 20, 30 years, 25 years since the internet went mainstream.
Right.
Like that. It's just, the world has literally changed, but we haven't, okay? Right. And the reason you've still got hair on your face and I've got hair on my arm.
On my face, I noticed you said face.
And your head.
That's right, barely, but okay.
And we will have for millions more years. It's taken us millions of years to get to this stage. We haven't changed. We've evolved slowly, but while the world around us has changed, humans ultimately are the same. They're social animals. They buy on emotion. They say whatever it is, 80, 90% of our purchasing decisions are made on emotion, and we apply logic post-purchase to justify why we just bought that.
Or why we shouldn't have.
Why did you buy the iPhone 11 when you walked past the Apple store and spent $2,500 on it?
Right.
Well, I had a crack in my old one, and I was slowing down a little bit.
The battery life.
But it was a perfectly good phone, and so. If you understand people, then you've got a better chance of success at business. But business today is not just about the people in your local tribe, your local, community.
Right.
Most businesses are now have an international component to them. It might be that your supply chain's in China or Vietnam, or it might be that you're selling your product online and people in the US or Russia or France are buying your product. So, and everyone's, cultures and tribes are different. So you've got to get out there and understand those people. It's not just your local, the world's got a lot bigger. But fundamentally, people are the same, there are a few exceptions to that. Japan's probably a slightly different,
but still you have to understand it, right?
Outlier,
Because,
but people are the same. They worry about the same things. They eat, 3 times a day. They sleep sort of between 4 and 8 hours a day, and they worry about the same things, and they get excited about the same things. So if you understand and can unpack and peel back those layers, then you've got a better chance in business and life.
I love that. Yeah. Understanding the business by understanding people, because people are the business. Amazing.
Yeah.
So going on to implement strategies. You've implemented a lot of strategies to be successful. What are some, you talked about discipline, working out, taking care of yourself, that's one. What are some other strategies as far as implementation that you would suggest our viewers and listeners take advantage of?
Yeah, look, I mean, one of the things that I really encourage all of our team members at KERB to do, and I've done in previous jobs as well. I mean, I came from a international education background. We were marketing, university higher education around the world and attracting international. But I've always sort of, try to get my team and my staff to get out of their comfort zone and go and do exactly what I've just said. Go and learn, about each other's lives. I mean, we work remotely, most of us around the world, and do work for KERB, and we use Slack, as our sort of, that's our kind of, office. But we have automated stand-up meetings every day or every other day, and we get people to share a photo from their life.
Do they have to stand up, or could they be sitting down?
No, they could be sitting down. Yeah, but
just checking.
But we really encourage. I really encourage everybody to share sort of components of their life, but move people out of their next month. We're flying everyone into Bali from around the world. There'll be people coming from other parts of Indonesia, from India, from the Philippines, from Ireland, from the UK, all over the world. And again, it's about sort of, just getting each other to understand each other's environment and lives and, the way they see the world. And I think if you can do that, you're going to have a more harmonious team. So that's definitely one of the strategies we've implemented.
Yeah. How about on the personal side, where you look at kind of that balance, or call it integration of, because you have so much going on in the business, right? You have the personal aspect as well. A lot of people have what they, perceive as a struggle of those two worlds, although your life is your life, right? But what's a strategy that you found that helps eliminate that struggle, or helps to eliminate that struggle?
I'd love to know that. I'd love to know that. I haven't found the golden key for that one, JP. But it's. I mean, obviously, your partner in life is or your significant other is a key to success in your life. I mean, if you're unhappy at home, you're likely to be less productive and less effective at work. So. And it's not, I mean, I live a crazy life. I'm on the road sort of, 4 or 5 months a year. My partner lives in Vietnam, and, so I split, my time between Saigon and Sydney. I've got 3 kids here. And so balancing all that is, but there's opportunity and there's richness in that as well for your personal, the people that share your personal life with you, So, my kids, it's a wonderful opportunity for them when I come back off a trip, to teach them about, where I've just been.
And use it as that, not as a negative, I've been away. It's actually here, I bring this back.
And they're always, Dad, you're going there. Can you bring us some,
snow globes,
some original copy, Nike SBs or, Vans shoes or whatever. So there's you've got to there's opportunity in everything, and I think in your personal life, it is about balance. But we live in a world today where you never switch off, and that's just the world we live in. It's not going to change. We're never going to go back to a 9 to 5.
Punch out, go home.
Yeah, it's just it doesn't. The world is changing so fast on that front. And I think in 20 years' time, and certainly our grandchildren will ask us, Granddad, did you really used to go to a building every day to do work, with other people from 9 till 5 and work in a little cubicle? Did you used to do that?
Right.
And we see that with KERB, with just, the changing face of cities, the way that, and all these smart city, local government wants to become a smart city, but seeing the way that city planners and urban planners are reclaiming the city for the people, the sort of co-working spaces that are popping up everywhere in every city. It's not just in places like this or San Francisco. It's everywhere, everywhere. And so there's a fundamental groundswell of change that is, to go back to that sort of, relationship-bound strategy. I think you've got to roll with it.
Right.
And the world is changing fast, and you've got to roll with it. You're going to get left behind.
Yeah, I love what you said about bringing the positivity of the situation and whatever you're faced with into it, because your environment is your environment, right?
Absolutely.
If you're going to make it negative, then it will be negative.
Totally.
But you can make that same situation a positive opportunity for the family and significant others and the rest of it. So, well stated. If we go to L now, lead and inspire. Obviously, you're leading and inspiring many around the world. What are some tidbits of wisdom that you can share for leading and inspiring?
Look, there's a quote that I've often repeat to my team, which was the former Lieutenant General in the Australian Army, who said, the standard that you walk past is the standard you accept. And I think that's a very, very powerful, for leadership, that's a very, very powerful quote. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept. So as a leader, if you're accepting, substandard, whatever, whether it's the copy that's going out on your landing page, or whether it's a design, or whether it's, the speed of your app that your dev team's just released, if you're willing to accept that as the leader, then you're setting, you're lowering the bar in terms of the standard that you are setting in your institution.
Continue to erode sometimes,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. And it's, the boss doesn't do it, or Rob doesn't do it. Well, so why should I do it? Why should I care? So I think if you are leading by example in terms of the standards that you set in your organization, I think that's the best starting point that any leader can start with. And sadly, we see that very rarely. And it's not just because somebody's got the title of CEO or managing director or team leader on their business card, that they're setting that standard. So I think that for any team that you are leading, you've got to set the bar. It's the one thing you've got to do in terms of the standard that you accept and that you are willing to walk past. And if you're not willing to walk past that standard, you pull people up and they understand that that's where you set the bar. So I think that's a very, very effective sort of starting point.
And the cool thing about that is that it applies absolutely to your personal life too. You talk about children that you have, right, and leading and inspiring there.
How you prepare the dinner, present the dinner table for your friends or for your significant other. That's the standard you accept, the standard you walk past. So if you're happy to just sit on the sofa and eat in your lap and just that's the cleanliness of your apartment, or the diligence with which you spend time with your children doing their homework. That's the standard that you accept. So
love it.
Yeah, it's really, really important.
Which leads to deliver excellence. And when we talk about excellence, again, both personally and professionally, what does that mean to you, I guess? Because it means something different to everyone. How do you ensure that you deliver excellence each and every day?
Look, I mean, again, I'd love to know that magic bullet, that silver bullet for that problem. I mean, I think, positivity is again, and you can't necessarily teach positivity. It's, that everybody sees the world through their own eyes. And I'm very grateful that I see the world as very much a half full, nearly full, not just half
not
full.
even exactly.
And
overflowing.
So I think positivity and loving, obviously, I know it's a cliche, but loving what you do. If you get out of bed, on a Monday morning with dread, then you're in the wrong place, the wrong job, maybe the wrong relationship, maybe the wrong city. You've got to find your groove and find something you love doing. I know it's been said a million times, but if you're not doing something, then you're not going to be positive. And if you're positive about, then you've got a much better chance of delivering excellence. And so that for me is the starting point. Just waking up every day. It doesn't matter if it's raining, if it's cold, if it's hot, it's sunny. It's you have
that joy, that
you're
enthusiasm,
lucky to be alive.
right?
You're
Exactly.
lucky
that
to be
appreciation,
alive,
the gratitude, right?
But I think the other thing as well, JP, is you're not just lucky to be alive. You're lucky to be alive in this time, this incredible time where anybody, any of your listeners, your viewers can start their own business. We've got the same tools. The difference today to the difference sort of 250 years ago when the British Empire owned a third of the world was that they had the best tools. They had the best guns, the best cannons. They could go into any country and go. Today the difference is that everybody's using Slack, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, PHP. It's all this, we've all got access to the same tools. And so we're living in just an incredible time. And so if you're not positive about what you're doing at work and you're not in relationship, then you've got to have the courage to change it and find your groove. So that's my sort of, in terms of delivering excellence, you've got to start with that. But the standard you accept, the standard you walk past, and then just that positivity combined.
Builds literally to delivering excellence. All of it comes together, which is great.
Totally.
Are there any final kind of words of wisdom that you've had throughout your years, like that first quote you talked about with the coach, or the other quote, or anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners before we close today?
JP, for me, it's as I said, I've touched on this a couple of times during this conversation. The world is not the same world as the world your parents grew up in, and it's a very different world to the world your grandparents grew up in. And you've got to get out there, you've got to get out of your comfort zone, got to get out of your little tribe, because the nature of business, the nature of relationships, every meaningful relationship I've ever had in my life, which are sort of 4 or 5 of them, that they've all been with, a girl from a different country, and that's the world we live in, and that's really exciting, really enriching. And I think, if you're lucky enough to speak other languages, I'm lucky enough to speak a couple of other languages, which was one of the best decisions I ever took. Right. Then, and English, obviously, for a lot of people watching this today is a second language. But even that, you're so lucky if you've got that ability to speak a second language, but you've got to use it. You've got to get out there. You've got to go and see the world and find a job that lets you do that. Right. And we can today. If the economic reality of that is not your reality, then find a job that allows you to deal online with people from all over the world, because you just learn so much and it'll enrich your life. Yeah.
Well, I can feel the enthusiasm, the passion, the joy that you have. Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah. How can people get a hold of you if they want to find out more about KERB or you or your services and what you have to offer?
The KERB app, for anybody who's got a parking space sitting empty during the day and wants to make a bit of extra money, can be downloaded from the iOS or Android App Store, or via www.kerb.works, WORKS. So, and anybody's looking for cheap parking in their city, who doesn't, sick of paying extortionate parking rates, again, download the KERB app and let's change the current parking experience around the world. Absolutely. Is a huge opportunity.
Well, I'm going to check it out for sure. I suggest all of you check it out as well. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Pleasure.
It was a true pleasure to have you here today. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time on The Build Show. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Build Show.